Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eric here, and welcome to another gaming video. It's been a while since I did another gaming review. I think the last video I did was probably like a month ago or so, and that was for Destiny 2. I apologize for that, but I just haven't had really much of a chance to review a lot of games because I haven't finished a lot of games. But now I finished already 2 games, and I'm going to be doing a review on both of them. Right on, the first game I'm going to start off with is Uncharted 3. Now, before we start, I'd like to point out, I haven't played the entire Uncharted trilogy yet. I've only played 3, and I decided to start off the Uncharted trilogy with the third game, because, well, it's the game that I'm most familiar with. Well, without further ado, let's just jump right into this thing. Let's talk about gameplay. Now, Uncharted 3, and just the Uncharted franchise in general, is known for being just a typical third-person shooter, I guess, with the emphasis being that the enemies are pretty hard to kill, even on a normal difficulty, because they're bullet sponges. Now, it's just like I said, it's just a typical third-person shooter with the occasional hand-to-hand combat. But the game also puts an emphasis on puzzle solving and platforming, such as when you have to use parkour in order to traverse through some of the areas, or when you have to go through a certain ancient area and you have to solve the puzzle in order to proceed to the next point. Now, in of itself, the game is a lot of fun. It can be very punishing if you don't know what you're doing, but at the same time, it's also very satisfying when you're able to just completely annihilate a bunch of enemies, despite the whole bullet sponging thing. And well, the parkour system definitely is pretty bad in of itself, because you still have moments where the game just doesn't register your movements, or just sometimes delays it. But nevertheless, the game is very enjoyable, and it's a lot of fun to run around and kill people with a bunch of different weapons. Some of them pretty ridiculous, others just pretty meh. But overall, you're always going to be overwhelmed with a bunch of enemies regardless of what difficulty you're on. And to those who like to have a challenge, be prepared for this kind of game. Alright, moving on to the next one. Now let's talk about the story of Uncharted 3. Now, the Uncharted series has always been known for its very interesting story, which takes a old legend, which in the first game it was El Dorado, the second game was Marco Polo and Shambhala. This game is about Sir Francis Drake's voyage that apparently could led to the Pillars of Iran. At least that's what they call it. Now, interesting enough, this game is also the one that puts a major emphasis on Nathan Drake's personality, his development as a character, and just his history in of itself, which I feel like is something that the other games hasn't really put much emphasis on, not including Uncharted 4. Now, this game was like the one that made you question a bit of who Nathan Drake really was, and about his history with Sully, and the characters that are. And I feel that this game, other than Uncharted 4, had characters that at least related to Nathan Drake's past, which honestly felt nice. Admittedly, the story definitely took a twist and turn, and definitely had those moments that was kind of irrelevant, in all honesty. Especially during the whole situation regarding Elena and Nate. But everything else about the game has been pretty spot on. The characters in themselves are pretty enjoyable to listen to. The chemistry, the dialogue between each of them, the writing, the humor. And you also have the villains, who actually felt pretty well developed, particularly because they were one of the characters that had an emphasis and had a sort of involvement in Nathan Drake's past. But in all fairness, this game's story was pretty spot on. I will give them that. The story that they did took an interesting twist, and I'm pretty sure that is one of the more interesting things that they have done that could have been probably the most realistic of all things. Like, I won't say much, but I will say what the story did and the interesting thing to take on the mythology of the Irans of the Pillars of Iran and the whole story of Francis Drake and Lawrence of Arabia. It was definitely intriguing, and I kind of wish that there was more games like that. Moving on. So I want to talk about how Uncharted compares to other shooter games that are constantly being released every year. Now honestly, Uncharted 3 is one of those very few games that I personally think manages to not only age well, but at the same time also provide the same kind of fun and enjoyment that you get when you first played it on the PS3. Because I honestly enjoyed it as much as I did on the PS3. Though to be fair, I can definitely say that I've at least did a better job in this game in comparison to when I first started playing on the PS3. Because on the PS3, I had no idea what a shooter was, or at the very least, I had no idea how to play a shooter, despite having at least a little bit of experience in some of the Call of Duty games that they released. But in all honesty, this is one of those very few games that I personally feel like PlayStation has managed to re-release and manages to keep the same kind of enjoyment and the spirit that you would expect from a franchise that is Uncharted. And in all honesty, sometimes I feel like there are some shooter games that just can't compare. Like, even games from now sometimes don't feel as good as like the Uncharted series in and of itself. Not because of the whole shooter thing, just because it's actually a lot of fun. Then again, that's in my own opinion. I'm not gonna say anything bad about the other games in and of themselves, because they also have their own merits and all that. And Uncharted is not a perfect game. Like, I will agree that I believe that Uncharted is a good game. I just don't believe it's a game of the year for me. Now, in all honesty, this is probably this is definitely one of my favorite games. I will give you that. One of my favorite games I enjoy playing on the PS3 and just PlayStation in general. If we're talking favorite games of all time, it's up there. Now, if I were to give this game a rating based on how I feel about it, I would probably say that the game is a 9 out of 10 at best. It still has its problems, it still has its merits, it has all that. But honestly, this game is definitely worth a 9 out of 10. And that's all I can really say. Well, I believe it's time that I call it here. I want to end the video because I believe I've rambled on long enough. Like, the kind of like emphasis on what the game feels. The game is a lot of fun. The story is pretty good. The mythology, the mythology that they use and the take on it was definitely interesting. It actually felt like the most realistic, if we're not out of the trilogy, not counting Uncharted 4. Now I will do a review on it another time in the far future. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this review. Please comment down. If you want to see me also do a review on Uncharted 1 and 2, please also let me know as well. I will try to do a review on both games. And let me know what other games you guys think I should try to review, or at least try to get around to reviewing. Well, I'm gonna call it here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Ciao.
Throbbing hearts are always ever burning as if they